In a disc golf world, far, far away, a new mold arises, ready to take your game out of this world. The weirdest disc we've seen, created in almost 10 years.
And you guys asked some pretty weird questions about it, so we're going to answer them. What is the Trash Panda ET all about? Before we dive in, we have to ask the most important question of the day. How are you doing today, Douglas? Are you having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
Howdy YouTube fam, Robbie C here. We have with us the Trash Panda Extraterrestrial 2, ET for short. And I wanted to make a quick video to show you, hey, what is this all about? As well as answer a few of your questions, because this is truly, I would argue, one of the most unique disc releases that we have seen in quite some time. And I do think that this solves or helps serve a legitimate problem or an issue that you may have with your game. And I want to dive into that first, but also answer a few of your questions along the way. One thing that has uniquely set, I feel, Trash Panda apart from other disc golf manufacturers is when a package arrives from Trash Panda, the boxing, the labeling is all part of the experience. You know, when you look on the front porch, instead of just a standard cardboard box, there is something special about it. And what was unique about this one is that it just has this ET stamp on it. So I was kind of excited because for them to go so top secret made me really curious about the unboxing or the experience of opening it, because even when I talked to Jesse this morning before I went and filmed this, he was like, how's the experience? And I told him, well, I ain't done it yet, brother, but I'll tell you soon. Let's experience it together, shall we? Okay. The ET logo is still there. I love the ET logo because it is an E, a T combined, and it still looks like a disc golf basket. I told Jesse, this could be like if you were looking for a cool Trash Panda tattoo, this could definitely be it. We have their standard card, encounter details, date of encounter, 28th of November, 2023. That's when it was, I guess, first ideaed. Time of sighting, locations, Missouri and Colorado, because this is actually a collaboration between Trash Panda and Gateway. And then confidential, really cool here. I also love, we have a little sticker. Oh, I say sticker, but it's actually a temporary tattoo. That's incredible. So yeah, if I wasn't seeing my wife for the first time after her being out of the country for 8 days, I literally think I would do like a neck tat with this because it's humid enough that it would work, but we'll save that for another time. Confidential packaging. Here we go. The goods themselves, and we have two ETs. Another fun thing that Jesse does is when he's doing and he's sending it out to personalities and reviewers, he sends out two because there's nothing quite like the feeling of you only have one and you're trying to review it and you're like, oh, let me throw this shot, and then it doesn't go according to plan. But what makes this disc unique? Looks like a driver, feels like a driver, but when you go to the bottom, you'll notice, holding it this way, this side of the rim is significantly smaller than this side of the rim. A fairway driver on this side and a distance driver on this side. Huh? Now, there are several common questions I'm sure that people are asking. How does it fly? What does it compare to? And the Aerobie Epic is a disc that first comes to mind in comparison. The Aerobie Epic was a special Frisbee that is no longer actually PDGA approved, that was designed to actually fly farther when you threw it on a tomahawk or thumber. Those overhand flights, it got this really crazy flight reaction out of it. And rather than just doing a simple review myself, I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask questions so that if you're interested in buying an ET, you already know. Now, an interesting thing about me and this ET is that actually a couple weeks ago when I was up in Colorado, I got to visit Jesse and the ETs were there. In fact, in the footage in the warehouse, I can actually point to, they were all sitting in a box off to the side.
You're the man. It's all downhill from here.
Now, this is a fascinating experience because if you're not familiar in disc golf, when you throw discs at elevation, the higher up you are, the more it affects the flight of the disc, traditionally making them more overstable, which means that they want to get to the ground faster. Now, Jesse, who has family who lives at sea level but lives at elevation in Denver, he gets the opportunity to kind of bounce back and forth between that. So he's got a good idea of what changes actually affect the disc. But being a sea level man myself, I could understand how different discs that I knew flew up there because I was familiar with the flight of my discs. But I actually got the chance to throw these for the first time while I was up there. In fact, one night while walking his dog, we just threw ozones and ETs all over the park. Let me tell you, I thought that these puppies were pretty overstable at that elevation, especially because Jesse continued to take me into the mountains at more elevation, so it just became even more overstable. When you think about this disc, you have a fairway side as well as a distance driver side, but I do think that it has distance driver potential. So I would call it something close to a 11 speed to be on the safer side. So with 11 locked in for the speed, what do I think the glide is? I think the glide is about a 4 or a 5, but I'll tell you, whoo, getting me fired up right here. About to let me get in my zone. About to let me get in my zone. I think glide is like the silliest number when it comes to a disc because I think that pigs have more than one glide. I also don't understand how sometimes a disc has like 7 glide and it feels like it glides like a standard fairway. Now turn is where it actually gets interesting because at elevation, I would have told you that this had 0 turn. However, down here where the mortals live, not amongst the mountains, I would say that it has -1 turn. Now, as for fade, I think at elevation, I would have said something along the lines of a 3, but here, personally, I'd probably give it a 2 fade. Although I don't know, because on that forehand, I gave it a little flexi flex and it still kind of came back. So maybe like 11.5 - 1.3? I will be 100% honest in that I never feel like if I am throwing a disc and giving it like a full review, that after one day of throwing it or even one round of throwing it, I have an accurate read because sometimes there may be muscle fatigue, I may be tired. There are so many factors that we've all seen, even amongst the best players in the world, that sometimes you just have it and sometimes you don't. But I do think 11.5 - 1.3 is where I would land on this. But man, do I think that it still serves a really cool purpose because with the off-centered circle or the non-concentric rim, you might think that this actually applies gyro and that gyroscopic effect because once you get that heavier side going, it should, in theory, be better than even real gyro? Not a science guy. How many times do I gotta say this? Jesse, why are you hurting my brain like this? Now, you did ask some pretty serious questions, so I wanna make sure I give them some serious answers. Another person asked, does it bomb? And I think we need to let the disc show itself. Okay, but seriously, here's actually a throw-in a 375 foot hole. Yeah, they bomb. Now, another question. No, it's not a good putter. So another question was, that's a tough look, Jesse. That's a tough look. Guess that's why they made the inner core first. You gotta start at the basket and work your way backwards. And someone asked, does it wobble? And I think it wobbles just like any other disc would. I don't notice it coming out like any because of the non-concentric circle on the bottom. Because of the shape of the rim and talking about that gyroscopic effect, I do think that like it may have wobble, and trying to go back and watch some of the throws myself, I don't notice any more wobble, any extra wobble. And that's coming off of a forehand. And I personally feel like I have way more wobble coming off my forehand than I do my backhand. And Tech Disc does actually confirm that for me personally. So no, I don't think that it necessarily wobbles extra because of the shape of the rim. I think it just wobbles because discs do be wobbling. Our next question, why does it exist? Well, I guess I would ask, why does the Rollo exist? Why does the tilt exist? Why does the Castoplast Rask exist with 2 rims? Why does the Binks exist? I think people are innovating inside of disc golf all the time and trying to push the limits of what innovation means inside of disc golf because disc technology, when we continue to push boundaries and try stuff like the ET, I think lets us know what works, or does it actually have an effect? Do we create a better gyroscopic option because the ET is there? Of the 4 moles that I just listed, there are folks who absolutely love each of those and use them quite often. And they're probably asking the same question. And they're probably asking, why does the pig exist? Why does it go so straight? One of the best parts about disc golf is that there are so many options available for everyone. Now, It is called the Extraterrestrial 2, which makes us wonder, who was the Extraterrestrial 1? Well, obviously, it's got to be him. But like, I actually wonder if they had to differentiate it because the alien does actually exist within of a. Now, someone asked, is it actually a 7-speed feel on one side and a 12-speed on the other? I don't know that I would get all the way to 12. 11 feels like a nice example because it does have a decent amount of dome. But when I'm holding the driver's side, I feel like I can get a hold of it pretty well, which is nice, but it does bring up a problem that I personally feel in my game, and I think a lot of people actually experience as well, which is why I really think that this disc, like not exaggerating it, could open up some training ground or realm for your game. There are folks like me who Birmingham golf, where I learned to play, doesn't require a ton of super far distance shots. We have very technical golf with elevation change is how I would describe my city's disc golf. Now, where that gets interesting is that because that's where I learned to play golf, I love throwing putters and mids and even fairway drivers to a degree. But when you put a distance driver in my hand, that big old rim, I have very large hands. I'm 6'3", I have big hands. So it's not a matter of me like getting comfortable around the edge. Subconsciously, something in my body just, I don't know, never wants to throw far, never wants to be a crusher, never wants to make my father proud, never wants to be able to execute it at an elite level distance, never wants to be able to play New London without crying internally and hoping that it'll end soon. There's a host of things that happen mentally when I grab a distance driver rim. And I do think that there are a lot of folks who feel the same way. We actually had a guest on In the Bag last week who talked about he has some thicker hands, and so those larger rims, he has a really hard time getting around. He loves a small rim with a little bit of shallowness to it. Well, cue the ET, because you can get distance driver potential, but when you hold the fairway side, it actually feels like you're throwing a fairway. I'm gonna grab the distance driver side, I'm gonna line this shot up and try to truly throw it flat right down the gut and give the same shot. Now, same mold, but I'm gonna grab the fairway side. And of course, science would not be on my side, but I'll tell you that even going down that hill, I threw the blue one farther than that yellow one went on a worse release. So what's interesting for me is that if you are in the same boat as me and you feel like you're very comfortable throwing the smaller rims and you want to progress to the larger rims, then this is a great progression, and you can actually kind of twist the disc in your hand to get used to throwing a progressively larger rim. It's such a good training tool to get you comfortable while still offering distance driver potential with a more comfortable hand feel. Now, what's most curious about that to me is that when it comes to forehands, I actually flip-flop on that, and I love my power forehand. So when I throw a forehand, I actually grab the ET on the driver side, and I don't really use it on the fairway side. I'll tell you what it really gives me the biggest vibe of, because especially seeing early on that it's not designed to be an Aerobie Epic replacement. It reminds me of when you were a kid and you were trying to learn how to skate. There were those, I think they were like Little Tyke or something, but they were largely plastic, and it was these really colorful ones. Most of the people had like blue, baby blue, yellow, and these orange like little brakes and stuff on them. But they were roller skates, not blades, that you could sort of stretch apart, and they clicked apart so that you could just put your shoe inside of it and then reattach it. That way, if you were learning to skate, it didn't matter how much your shoe grew because you could fit into that skate. This is the training skate of learning to throw disc golf distance drivers. Because with a pretty forgiving flight of it not being super overstable, but it's certainly not neutral, and it's definitely not understable, I think this holds a really great place in the market. And looking at the rest of the Trash Panda lineup, you have a neutral putter that teaches you what you're doing wrong in your form. You have a neutral to understable mid-range, which does a similar effect to the inner core, just a little bit longer. And then you actually have an understable fairway driver that is usable by almost every arm speed out there. And now we have the first overstable, leaning towards, I'm sure depending on your arm speed, neutral distance driver, it really is creating a powerful lineup that is introducing people to the sport. I really do love this approach from Trash Panda because eventually they'll fill it all out, right? They're going to have an overstable putt and approach disc. They're going to have these overstable distance drivers. But for right now, they're building discs for the people that are usable by lots of people. And the last question I want to answer is a pretty important one. And someone asks, will you send it to me? And I actually ran this idea by Jesse, so I figure why not start it now? I'm at Joe Tucker Park in Helena, Alabama, standing on the tee box of hole 9. It's a little 9-hole track, super fun, super beautiful. And unfortunately, I don't have your address, so I can't send it to you directly. But I am gonna send this to someone because standing on the box of hole 9, I'm gonna go 45 degrees into the woods over there. And I'm gonna toss it in the woods. It's far enough away from the edge of the woods that someone shouldn't hopefully stumble upon it. And if you do, you deserve it, because that's a tough spot to be in. The Trash Panda is here to grow the sport sustainably. And so we talked about a really fun idea, being that we, at the end of videos or in the videos, whatever it may be, we introduce someone to Trash Panda in a new and different way. So ET has indeed phoned home. I'm walking away with one of them. This video is gonna drop on a Tuesday, so it's right there for the taking. So really excited for this. I am pumped that Jesse has rounded out this lineup. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you for asking some questions. I didn't give a ton of time for the questions to develop, so I'm gonna be honest. We just wanna keep this video short because I'm trying to go back towards the roots of a lot more educational content so that hopefully it's helpful for you. But I still wanna be able to shout out my friends, and I really do see that this has an educational purpose to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. It is a super fun disc. I would love to know in the comments down below, what are you most excited for when it comes to the Trash Panda and Gateway collaboration, the Extraterrestrial. Let's go for that skip base potential. It's a good thing we let that lady keep walking, because they're not in the business of her first ET encounter being with a disc hitting her. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're gonna leave you with the birdie.